I recently read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. Habits have a disturbing power over our lives. If you've ever had a craving that you couldn't resist, like the urge to eat a cupcake sitting gracefully on your kitchen countertop, you know what I mean. Stopping a bad habit with sheer willpower rarely works. The only way to reliably calm cravings and banish bad habits is to leverage the golden rule of habit change. The golden rule of habit change says if you want to change a bad habit, keep the cue from your bad habit, what triggers your cravings, and the reward of your bad habit, the sensation you crave, but insert a new routine. In the book, Duhigg says, the golden rule has influenced treatments for alcoholism, obesity, obsessive-compulsive disorders, and hundreds of other destructive behaviors, and understanding it can help anyone change their habits. Whether you want to stop wasting hours mindlessly checking your phone, or snacking on food that makes you feel like crap, you can use the golden rule of habit change to gain power over your bad habits by following 3 steps. First, rethink the reward. When a smoker craves a cigarette, they crave the nicotine in the cigarette, right? Well, if that were true, smokers who use a nicotine patch or chew nicotine gum when they crave a smoke should be able to stop smoking. However, less than 10% of smokers who use nicotine patches or gum quit smoking. What the smokers actually crave is less obvious. Some smokers crave a cigarette because their brains have associated smoking with going outside and socializing with other smokers. Other smokers crave cigarettes because the act of smoking relieves boredom and provides a temporary escape from their anxiety. In either case, these smokers don't need a cigarette to experience the reward they're actually craving. Just as smokers don't need a cigarette to satisfy their cigarette craving, we don't need a cupcake to satisfy our cupcake craving, or we don't need to check our phone to satisfy our phone craving. Maybe when we crave a cupcake or have the urge to check our phone, we really crave stimulation. If that's the case, then slowly sipping a cup of tea or getting down and doing push-ups will provide the stimulation we desire. Or maybe what we really want is to relieve stress and get our minds off work. If it's the mental break we crave, then going for a walk and listening to music will do. Some stimulation and a break is often the reward we're really craving. A group of researchers at the University of Virginia wanted to see just how badly the average person craves stimulation. So they asked a series of participants to sit alone in a room for 15 minutes and just think. The room was empty except for a device that allowed the participants to give themselves a mildly painful shock. Almost half the participants, 65% of men and 25% of women, elected to shock themselves over and over again. In their conclusion, the researchers said it best. Most people seem to prefer to be doing something rather than nothing, even if that something is negative. Even when we know a food is bad for us, or checking Twitter, or email, or TikTok, or YouTube will lead to hours of wasted time, we still do it to satisfy our need for stimulation and experience a temporary escape from our anxious thoughts. However, the only way to know if what you actually crave is stimulation or break is to analyze your bad habits and test out new routines. Step number 2, test new routines. When author Charles Duhigg was writing this book, he developed a daily cookie craving. As a result, Duhigg was gaining weight and receiving comments from his wife about his ever-expanding waistline. But Duhigg had just learned about the golden rule of habit change, so he got to work testing out new routines that could satisfy his cookie craving without actually eating a cookie. First, he needed to isolate the cue that triggered his cookie craving. So for the next week, he answered 4 questions every time he experienced a cookie craving. Where am I? What time is it? What's my emotional state? Stressed, anxious, bored. And what am I doing? That is, what action is preceding my craving? After a week of observing what led to his cookie craving, he was able to see a pattern and isolate the cue that triggered his bad habit. At roughly 3:30 p.m. every day while in the office, he started craving a cookie. Now that he was aware of the cue that triggered his craving, he could test new routines immediately following the cue. Over the course of the next few days, he set an alarm for 3:30 p.m. and executed a non-cookie eating routine each day. Then 15 minutes later, he would take note of how he was feeling and if his craving had subsided. On the first day, he walked around the block and then went back to his desk without eating anything. That wasn't very effective. The next day, he bought an apple at the cafeteria, ate it, then went back to his desk. That also didn't satisfy his craving. The next day, he ordered a cup of coffee and went back to work. That slightly worked. But the following day, he went to a friend's office and gossiped for a few minutes and then went back to his desk. That seemed to work. In the book, Duhigg says, through experimentation, I had learned that it wasn't really the cookie I craved. Rather, it was a moment of distraction and the opportunity to socialize. After a few weeks of setting an alarm at 3:30 p.m. and talking with a friend, he found that he no longer craved a cookie. And he says, at about 3:30 every day, I started absent-mindedly standing up, looking around the newsroom for someone to talk to, spending 10 minutes gossiping about the news, and then going back to my desk. It occurred every day without me thinking about it. It had become a habit. The process of replacing a bad habit is fairly straightforward, but not entirely easy. The first few weeks of replacing a bad routine with a better, healthier routine will involve some slip-ups and require a bit of willpower. But luckily, there's a hack for that. Step 3. Script your new routine. In 1992, 6 patients who had just had orthopedic surgery were recruited into a study. In the study, half the patients were asked to write out where and when they planned to go for a walk each day. For example, at 2 p.m. I will go for a walk around my neighborhood. But the other half simply set the intention of walking more, but did not write down a specific walking plan each day. When the psychologist leading the study visited the patients 3 months later, she found that the patients who had detailed walking plans walked almost twice as fast as the ones who had not. And the patients with detailed walking plans had started getting in and out of their chairs unassisted almost 3 times faster. In other words, those who found the willpower to do their rehabilitation exercise each day were the ones who had written out clear behavioral plans. The same principle will apply to changing any bad habit. By simply writing out what you will do when the cue for your bad habit is present, you'll dramatically increase the odds of executing your new routine. Starbucks get all new employees to write in a workbook, when my customer is unhappy, I will, ... and then I'll get to enjoy a grateful customer or praise from my manager. These behavior plans help employees who have a track record of losing their temper stay calm and poised through an entire 8-hour shift. Angela Duckworth, the author of Grit and a willpower researcher at UPenn, says sometimes it looks like people with great self-control aren't working hard. But that's because they've made it automatic. Their willpower occurs without them having to think about it. When you write out your new routine following the cue for your bad habit, you'll be less likely to fall back into your bad habit because you'll simply follow your plan without having to think about it. In the end, instead of using your willpower to suppress cravings and resist bad habits, get curious and study your bad habit loop. Get in the habit of asking yourself, what is the exact cue that is triggering my bad habit? Then, what's the real reward I seek? Remember that just because you crave a cupcake doesn't mean you need to eat a cupcake to satisfy your craving. Then, leverage the golden rule of habit change by experimenting with different routines that can deliver a similar reward and satisfy your craving. The goal is to get to the point where you can write down, when I, write down your old cue, I will, write down your new routine, to experience your old reward. That was the core message that I gathered from The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. The storytelling in this book is amazing. I highly recommend it. If you would like a 1-page PDF summary of insights that I gathered from this book, just click the link below and I'd be happy to email it to you. If you already subscribe to the free Productivity Game email newsletter, this PDF is sitting in your inbox. If you like this video, please share it. And as always, thanks for watching and have yourself a productive week.